Hi Trevor, welcome to the podcast. For anybody watching, just tell us full name, company name, and a wee bit about what you do.
I'm Trevor Palmer. I run a company called EV Blocks, and we make universal foundations for EV chargers.
So let me take you back to before you started doing all this, way back to your school days.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know a lot of people know what they want to do when they leave school. Were you in the same predicament, or did you know what you were going to do?
Yeah, I was kind of led towards trade school or college, like getting a trade, whether that be carpentry or plumbing or electrical work. And my dad said, "Oh, go and be a plumber." I said, "I'm not getting wet." So I trained up to be an electrician when I left school.
Okay.
And I couldn't wait to get into the world of work, even at school. I didn't want to be there. Got to college, couldn't wait to be there, because every bit of learning that I got from college would mean an extra pay rise so I could earn more money.
Okay, so when you went to college with the attitude that was going to be better than school, and how long were you at college for, and what did you do at college?
So it's a 4-year apprenticeship, or back then it was a 4-year apprenticeship to become an electrician. So we used to do, first year was day release, then we did 1 week out of 6 in the second year. The third year was day release, and the fourth year was day release again for college. And it was fantastic. I was so lucky or fortunate with my apprenticeship. Some of the other lads in there were only seeing the same types of work day in, day out. I was lucky enough to be placed in a commercial setting or a big business where they were doing schools, hospitals, Ministry of Defence sites, lots of different types of work and different skills to be learnt on site whilst I was studying at college as well. Wrote off 26 letters to different electrical firms when I was 16.
Wow.
Got 3 responses, and one of those was for a job interview. And I got, fortunately I got the job and went on from there.
Just, I want to ask you there, you said about you were writing off letters for interviews and you only get a few replies. That happens a lot today. So when people write to you for a job, do you reply to all of them, or even if it's to say no?
Yeah, so where possible we'll either say, it was more when I had an electrical company, I would always go back to them and say, "We're not hiring at the moment, best of luck," or "We're not hiring, but I know this company is, do write to those."
Just to make sure that they got that communication.
Yeah.
You ended up in New Zealand. How did that happen?
So when I finished my apprenticeship, I studied for 4 years. Throughout that time, I was saving up because I always wanted to go travelling when I'd finished. So all the elders around me said, "Oh, I wish I'd done this," or "Wish I'd done that." And I thought, I don't want to be in that wish I had done camp.
Yeah.
So I got my ticket to be as an electrician at 20, and then I worked in a different part of the business for another 6 months. And then that was it. I booked my ticket to go to New Zealand and travelled around New Zealand for about a year. Picked up work around New Zealand as an electrician. Ended up working on Shania Twain's house as she was having that built in New Zealand at the time. So I spent 2 or 3 days up there fitting lights in her menage where she was going to ride her horses. And I mean, it was a beautiful setting. And that was one of the great things about being in a trade. You go to some weird and wonderful places that people never see. Like the work we did in London, you're on rooftops of X building, or you're in a special VIP area of someone's offices looking out over London. Not everyone gets to see those places, and I think that's one of the nicer bits of our trade.
It gives your mind something as well, doesn't it? What I mean is, it gives you knowledge, that you've experienced something outside your comfort zone by going to these type of places. So how long were you there for?
So it was about 11 months in New Zealand. Went over to Australia and spent about a year there. I came home for about 2 or 3 weeks for a friend's wedding. And I came home and I was like, oh, well, I'll just go back to work in England. And I've done a nice bit of travelling. I've had like a year in New Zealand, 6 months in Oz. It's pretty good. And worked in Perth for a while for an Irish guy. And he was probably one of the best bosses I ever had. I spoke to him on the phone. I wasn't happy with the job where I was. And he said, I'll come down Friday for an interview. So I went down Friday afternoon for an interview. He says, all right, so how long have you been at this place and what's the crack? And I says, well, I've just jacked it in. I'm finished there now. And he says, oh, well, you better start Monday then. So I started with him on the Monday, and he kept giving me more and more rope, so more and more responsibility. And I'm there just on a working holiday visa. He's then issued me a vehicle, pickup truck, to go backwards and forwards to work. I'm running 3 or 4 apprentices. He gave me an insurance company premises to change or fit some new distribution boards in their server room and run an entire 24-hour shift from start to finish, organise all the men, the apprentices, what work's being carried out. And I'm just there on a working holiday visa. And he come in at 9 o'clock the following morning, and we're just putting all the labels on the sockets and everything's finished. He's like, brilliant, thanks very much, you can go home now. I'm like, oh, great, thanks. Just been here for about 16 hours. And he was fantastic to work with, and just to give you that experience.
And that takes me on to, that must have gave you the grounding for when you did start your own business, a good work ethic. How important is a good work ethic in your business today?
It's everything. I was driving up here last night thinking, who in their right mind does this? I've woken up early, sorted the kids out for breakfast. We've done the school run. I'm really fortunate to be able to do that now, as opposed to when I was on the tools. I'll be on site before the kids have even woke up. So drop the kids off at school, go to work, meeting, back in the office, sort some bits out, get everything set for the week, call with the guys in America, get that boxed off. It's now like 6 p.m. Get some dinner at the office, got some preparation work to do in the workshop, go home, pack my bags for here, get on the motorway, check into the hotel at 11:30 last night. It takes a special kind of person to just do and keep going, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of people will just want
9 to 5
or the whole oh, well, it's all right for him. Well, it is all right for that person because they've grafted. Like, you didn't see all the times where they went without, or all the hours they put in, or what they put up as risk for them to be able to get out of a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, or, you know, your friend getting out of the roller and getting heckled on the street.
Yeah.
Well, no one's seen the hard yards he's done before he's in that position to get out
to
of
get
Rolls
to
Royce.
where he is. Yeah. I mean, it's no easy. Take me to the start of the business. When did you start the business? Tell me then.
So I eventually came back from travelling when I was about 25. So been to New Zealand, worked in Oz, worked in Austria for 6 months or 8 months in the winter period, and then travelled to Canada. Came home, and I knew, as much as my apprenticeship was good where I was in Lincolnshire, we were always 10 years behind what was happening in London. So all of the switchgear, the equipment that was being used on the projects while I was going through my apprenticeship was still way behind or dated in terms of working practices. So I knew if I wanted to progress my career, I needed to go to London because that's where things are happening fast. And I landed a job working for a maintenance company who had the contract looking after Marks and Spencer's. And I had some of the best working mentors there. who were of the same kind of ilk. They wanted to get on in life. And when I'd kind of reached as high as I could go in that company, I started at like the bottom as just a maintenance tech, ended up doing a lot of reactive works, a lot of the inspection and testing across the Marks Spencer estate, and working on then small quoted works, again being trusted to look at projects, quote them, give the information to the office to quote the customer, Marks Spencer's.
Mm-hmm.
They get the PO, I'll get the overtime. Everyone's winning in that scenario. So I did that. I wanted to go to the next level and I couldn't get there in that company. So that's when I started off self-employed, worked as a consultant for a while for the University of West London. I wasn't happy with that role and I decided, right, I'm going to get a van, I'm going to get some tools and I'm going to go for it. And that was it. I got a £5,000 van, started advertising on Rated People. First job was doing some under cabinet lights for a nurse at Great Ormond Street Hospital. So it was in her home. That's where she happened to work. I'll never forget it. £60. And I was like, this is not going to pay the bills. Little jobs like this, mucking about, picking up materials. And then I started leaning into some of my old contacts at Marks Spencer's and the businesses that were around that supported that maintenance.
Sure.
And I said, yeah, sure, we've got some work. You know how everything works. We'll get you signed up as a subcontractor and we'll start you on a couple of small jobs. Those small jobs went from £1,200 to £50,000 projects where I had multiple guys working for us on these projects. So that was probably from 29 years old through to 34, 35.
What year was this?
I don't know.
Before lockdown?
Oh, way before lockdown.
Way before lockdown.
Yeah, way before lockdown, yeah. So it would have been 5 years before lockdown, probably 2015.
Okay, so you're trundling along, you're getting the contracts, you've got the team, you've reached out to your network. At what point did it then take a different turn for you to change direction again?
So we'd won a contract, a subcontract, if you like, for delivering EV charging points for the start of the Audi e-tron rollout. And we were fitting a lot of EV charging points there. And we started making concrete pads for pedestals to go onto. That was okay, but the quality was only as good as the guy on the trowel. We started using precast bases that I'd designed. And again, they were okay as long as we were using exactly the same pedestal every time. The pedestal manufacturer changed what they were doing and we were left with bases with holes in the wrong places. So then we're drilling super dense precast concrete, quite hard work and not really what these blocks were designed to do. So we put this adapter plate on to the precast product. That's where EV blocks was kind of born from. And we kind of tested it and refined it through my contracting business. And we're like, yeah, this is good. And it's good enough for other contractors. And that's where I registered EV blocks as its own legal entity.
So just to educate anybody that is unsure what this is. So prior to the EV blocks, with the way it is today,
yeah,
what is it that was delivered and what was the problem that you faced? Because I think you said the post would fit in and everything would be fine.
Yeah.
And then one day somebody phoned you and said, oh, this post doesn't fit.
Yeah, so the manufacturer we were working with sent us their Generation 2 post. And the Generation 2 post had different dimensions on the base. So they were all in the wrong spot. So originally it was shuttering up, pour the base or pour in wet cast concrete, wait for it to cure, and then drill your holes in that and fix your pedestal down. You're all the time waiting for that concrete to cure. So we moved to precast, so then we could bring the civils team and the electrical team closer together and turn more projects around faster. That was okay until we got this problem where new posts arrived and they don't fit, and one of them's halfway over the old hole and the other one doesn't line up.
And what was the solution to fix that problem that you had there and then?
So there and then we used chemical anchors. So we just drilled into the concrete and used chemical anchors and bolt them down. Fine for that project, but I knew that it's not the ultimate solution.
I think the whole objective was to save time, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And now you're spending time having to fix this mistake.
Yeah.
So going forward, you come up with an idea to provide another solution. Tell us about that.
So the idea was then, right, precast works is fast and it's the same every time. So we know every project, we can quote this item, put it in. Now we need to make it future-proof. So no matter which pedestal turns up, we know it will fit. That's where the adapter plate came in, so that could be drilled in the field to the correct fixing arrangements for the charger that had been sent. Also, I was aware that there were passive solutions. So the idea was you could put our block in ahead of time. So you dig up the ground once, you fit 10 bases, you fit 5 chargers, you've got another 5 ready for expansion. But you've only instructed the civils team once, you've only mobilised once, you've only paid for the guys' hotels, travel. You know, a lot of the guys will work from home on these kind of away from home on these kind of projects.
Now, am I assuming now that you've got this block, have you sold this to anybody else, or is this just your company doing your own jobs to fit these?
So initially it was just my company. So my electrical business was buying products from EV Blocks in the early stages, and then I got to know a couple of other contractors. Would you be interested in buying this? And that's where we started seeing our first kind of external sales, if you like. And as that went on, so as we were doing that, COVID came along and wiped out my electrical business because we were aligned with car dealerships, shopping centres, office blocks. Anywhere you couldn't go in COVID, that's where our business was aligned to. So we went from invoicing 6 figures a month to 0 overnight. And even though over the 12 months that followed, I could not get back up to that 6 figure a month revenue to feed the machine that we had built. So I took the decision to close that business and focus on EV Blocks. Meanwhile, whilst all that was happening, we'd launched EV Blocks. 2 weeks later, we went into lockdown. And I thought, what a great time to launch a business where no one's doing anything because everyone's sat at home. Mm-hmm. Continue to market and get some sales and some traction. And by the following year, EV Blocks was my kind of sole source of income. But it wasn't enough to keep the bills paid and keep everyone fed at home. So I got a job working as a maintenance technician locally so that I could work there in the morning from, say, 7 o'clock in the morning till 3:30. Then I could go home, pick up emails and phone calls for EV Blocks and keep everything churning. Meanwhile, Sharon, the lady who works for us, she was in the office part-time taking calls from customers in the morning and inquiries. But we just weren't doing enough revenue at that point, and I was taking phone calls while I'm laying underneath a dishwasher for orders of EV Blocks. And right, we need to ship this, and I need to get back down to the office tonight so I can laminate some more plates and pack plates ready for them to go onto the concrete element. And that was the early days. We had aluminium adapter plates with a non-slip surface. Now we've moved to like a composite plate so that it's more scalable.
Okay.
And that was always the goal, to make something that could be scaled. So we did that for 6 months, and it got to a breaking point where I just could not. My sleep was so fractured. I'm thinking about work, trying to hold down a job and run a business, I was like, something's got to give.
And I think being a man, you've got this in your head all the time, and it can affect your mental health. And I think what we try and do is we try and get through life and hope that something takes over before your mental health. That must have been stressful. Thinking, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? Or how were you as a person inside at this point?
These podcasts wouldn't be possible without our amazing sponsors. Make sure you support them too and check out their website. The EV revolution is driving demand for scalable charging infrastructure. EV Blocks provides a universal solution with precast concrete bases, ensuring quick, reliable installations. Say goodbye to traditional concrete curing times. EV Blocks offer fast, cost-effective foundations for any charger type, from public car parks to residential areas. EV Blocks are transforming EV charging infrastructure. Discover why professionals choose EV Blocks. Visit evblocks.com today.
It was rough, like really rough. And at one point, I ended up in a 6-car pile-up on the M25. That wrote my vehicle off, front and back. The van was smashed to pieces. And I'm trying to, at this point it was fully in EV Blocks, but we're still in maximum promotion mode, if you like. So we're travelling around every day, every 2 days a week, every week for 6 months of the year with a wholesaler brand that we were supporting and continue to support, going to all these road shows. I got a call from the office saying, oh, we've got an order and we need particular plates going out for that order. I knew we didn't have enough in stock. So I started to travel home from somewhere down south, like Winchester or wherever, ended up in this pile-up. Never got back to the office. The van's written off. I'm calling in favours to then go to a salvage yard, pick up all of my show equipment out of the van, load it into their van, get into the hotel, organise for the other guys to pick us up in the morning, do the trade show in the morning. All the while I'm thinking, well, I've got no vehicle, I've got insurance to sort out, I'm a bit sore around my shoulder. And what's next?
The perfect opportunity to throw the towel in.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, it was really rough. Got home. Yeah, thanks, Mum. So Mum came down to pick us up. And I've got 3D prints of our product, full-size 3D prints of our product going the back of her car and all of the banners and all the sales promotion stuff. So Mum came down, picked us up, went home, and then had to find an alternative vehicle for travelling around. Pretty sharpish because there was road shows the following week. So I've got basically 4 days to find a new vehicle, get it bought, get it insured, and get rolling again, ready for the next road shows. That was a time and a half.
It sounds it.
Yeah. I had good people around. And that is another thing. You need good people around you.
Even in business today, you still need good people around you, don't you? Whether it be family, friends, and staff. I'm a great believer, that when you surround yourself in business, people have got to have your back. You need to be able to delegate something or work with somebody and know that it's going to get done and it's going to be fine. Have you now got that team around you?
Yeah. It's such, my life has changed. It's massively. The early days was me and Sharon. Sharon worked for me part-time. There's no way EV Blocks would be where it is without Sharon's help. And we ran together for 2.5 years, just me and Sharon. And then we got to this point where we're like, oh my God, there are so many orders coming in. There's so much marketing to be done. I've got the commitments to be out of the office. This is just getting really crazy busy. And we need to be more consistent with our marketing message. So then we hired a marketeer. And from that, we had coverage all of the day, whether I was in the office or not, Katrina could answer the phone. So if an order came in and I was out, picking up kids from school or whatever, I knew that the business was being served. And that was super important. Functioning business. It was like barely, but it was working then.
I think that's important, even when if you've got the flu and you have to have time off, the business can actually still function. So bring me up to speed now. You've got the EV blocks, you've got new staff, you've got a team working behind you. I'm assuming you've patented the EV blocks. Are we there yet? Or
we're getting there. We've submitted another response to the European Patent Office.
Okay.
And it's going through the motions. We filed back in 2019. It's now 2024, and we're still patent pending in the UK, Europe, US, and Canada. It's an interesting process. It's mega expensive. I think if you...
Is it worth it?
Yes.
Is it needed? Yeah.
It is worth it because it adds massive value to your business. It also brings massive risk because all the time that patent application is going through, there are maintenance fees, there are conversations with your attorney, there are pretty much fees all the way through the process.
Never ends.
No, and the kicker is when it grants, you have to pay to enforce. And if you don't pay to enforce, you lose it. So you paid in all the way through the process. Yeah, I've got a patent. Here's the bill for enforcement per annum.
Oh my God.
So as I've learned, the patent system is structured for the big companies because they've got big budgets. Massive learning. Every day's learning. Running your own business. I don't care what anyone says. No one knows everything. Yeah. I certainly didn't expect this. I do believe it is worth it because should the patent grant, it will add massive value to our brand and our business.
Where are you at today? And are you supplying now to outside your company, other people using your product? What's the goal? What do you want to achieve with the business? It's a hard question. It's coming together. When I first designed the product and thought about it, I thought this is good enough for us. It's good enough for others. And then when I thought another layer deeper, it's good enough for the UK. It's good enough for Europe. Actually, we can scale this thing across the planet because the same challenge applies to a French electrician as it does to an American electrician. And you're able to supply that now in different parts of the world, didn't you?
That's right.
So where are you supplying now?
So we supply all the way across North America, Canada, and obviously in the UK where the product was born. And it's sold into a lot of the big building merchants in the country and the biggest electrical wholesalers in the country as well. So you've got electricians buying our products and you've got also civils companies buying our products through either wholesale networks or direct from us.
Are you enjoying the journey where you're at now?
I am now. Leading up to I am now, some of the days were tough and you think...
Which was... in the making of to where you are today. And I think, would you say that to anybody watching? They look at the end product and think, wow, great job. But they don't look at the journey. And I think, to get to the journey where you are. I mean, people look at this podcast and think, oh, this guy's interviewing a podcast. They don't know that I've done 1,100 interviews prior that haven't been seen, apart from on TV, so... There's a lot of work goes into stuff behind the scenes. Would you say, or giving advice to anybody watching that might be thinking about starting a business, what should they expect in their journey? They're not just going to run up with a gold plate. They're going to have to wear a rucksack. What would you say?
Yeah, there's so much there. Bootstrap as much as you can. It would be the starting point. Don't spend a boatload of money. Do your research. So I'm an electrician by trade. I would consider myself a good and competent electrician. That doesn't mean you can run a business. It's a completely different skill. And running my electrical business towards the end, when we were getting bigger and larger clients and bigger turnover, those were the learnings and turning points where you go, I need to do more homework. I need to learn about marketing. 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss, fantastic book for working out if your product's viable before you've even spent any money. Is what I want to do people want it? And if they do, then you can start to read up about marketing, how that works, how that's going to affect your cash flow as you buy stock in to sell, or service business. Service business, relatively low entry in terms of getting started, but then keeping going and growing. That's where it kind of the costs come in again. I think all the information's in the books. You've just got to have the will to read and learn and be constantly learning. I wish somebody would give me the E-Myth before I even started in business. There are so many great messages in those books to teach you, the engineer, the business running person, the marketeer elements. You need all that to be successful in business, and it's only through EV Blocks where I've been able to play and try different marketing tactics and operate a fully functioning business. I can step out the office now and it runs. I could never do that before. And you need to have that, start with the end in mind. How's this business going to run without me? Because if you're all the time making all the decisions in that business, you will never escape it. And you've just created a job that is 1 million hours. And when you work it back, it doesn't really pay that well.
Last question. If you could look back and change anything, what would it be?
Do you know what? I don't think I'd change anything. It's been pretty good. Tough, but good. I think you've got to do what you love. I'm fortunate now to do what I love doing. I've invented a product that is now sold in multiple places across the world. We've recently launched in Australia. Who would have thought? In my wildest dreams, when I had this sketched out on a pad, that we'd be selling EV Blocks in Australia and across North America with 20 different partners. And the partners in America are fully fledged businesses in their own right. It is incredible. The business just turned 5 years old.
You're only just 5 years old.
Yeah. Super, super grateful.
What an interview. I really enjoyed that. I've got insight as to you, your business, your crash, your story, the advice that you've given. I'm actually quite amazed that 5 years in, you've endured lockdown, that you're now selling a product around the world. And do you know what? Hats off to you. Hats off to you. And I wish you all the best with it in the future.